thousands, in the millions, and we will be. Because it starts right here.
Guilty.
Welcome to Naptown People's Radio. I'm your host, Dani Abdullah, here with my comrade and co-host,
Derek Ford.
On today's episode, we interviewed Kristopher Nelson about his time with the data center in West Memphis, Arkansas, which is a place I had never heard of. Shout out to Kristopher for educating me on places in the United States that I didn't know existed. But Kristopher talks about the impact that the data center had on his community and calls for unity. The need for us to stop fighting one another and fight the real enemy. You got to stay tuned to learn who that enemy is. But I feel like if you've made it to this episode, and just honestly, if you made it to this podcast in general, you should have a really good idea of who the enemy is. But stay tuned in case you don't. All right. But before we get into it with Kristopher, let's get into it with Derek and the Naptown Breakdown. What's happening this week in Naptown, Derek?
Well, so on September 5th, a spokesperson for Governor Mike Braun confirmed that Braun has ordered the deployment of the National Guard to support ICE's terror campaign against immigrants. The timing coincides with Trump's order for the National Guard to take over D.C. That's kind of another more complicated matter because that's, they're still struggling for statehood. And it also coincides with Trump's threats to deploy National Guards to other cities, Baltimore, et cetera. And Braun's spokesperson, assured us that they won't be making arrests. They'll just be helping, like ICE make arrests. One thing to note is that, Braun's deployment is his desired deployment is of 50 guardspeople. So which is not to downplay this, but to say this is really more of a symbolic gesture of his submission to Trump's agenda. The other thing to note is that the guardspeople haven't been activated, and active and veteran rank and file members and even superiors actually, are calling on them to resist. This is not unprecedented. Nick Place, a former Marine Corps captain, Afghanistan war veteran, who's now a constitutional law attorney, issued a statement after Trump deployed the Guard to L.A., which read in part, quote, "To the National Guard soldiers already in L.A., to the Marines of 2-7 out in 2-9 Palms, and to all my other Marines, and to every soldier, sailor, and airman. Your oath is to the Constitution of the United States, not Donald Trump, not a field-grade officer who needs to impress a boss to get that next staff job he really wants." So, and also last week, About Face, a national organization of veterans against war, had a conference in Martinsville, Indiana, of all places. Several of the participants stopped by the Liberation Center on the way home. They had come from San Francisco, the Bay Area, Minneapolis, Dayton, and elsewhere to let us know about Face, the conference, their plans to resist. And also the day before Braun's spokesperson confirmed this, Umeed-Hope and the Liberation Center held an event graciously hosted by the Guru Nanak Sikh Society, a pillar of community service for decades, to write letters to detainees in English, Punjabi, and Haitian Creole. The event was actually covered by the Associated Press. It was more than a simple act of correspondence and letter writing, but really an exercise in empathy, building community, and creating joy with resistance. So in other words, we got this if we keep organizing, uniting, building, and winning the people over to our side. In many ways, this struggle in particular is a battle of ideas. I mean, all struggles are, but really this one in particular, which, speaks to the fact that we need to make it clear that 99.9% of people in this city have way more in common with all immigrants in the city than they do with Trump or any member of the ruling class or political establishment. And, we can look at how the local establishment treats its own people as an example. Hogsett's staff, current and former, are continuing to come forward. They're empowered by the bravery of Lauren Roberts and Carolina Ellert, who, first called out the epidemic of sexual harassment and misogyny in the Hogsett administration. And Mirror Indy reports that this was just the tip of the iceberg. So they've been speaking out at city county council meetings, through social media, and more about really what they call the toxic workplace culture that you can't say anything negative. You can't critique Hogsett. He really just runs the place like a boss does, right? Not an elected official. Many say they were compelled to speak out because of Holcomb's response to the allegations. So Mirror Indy quotes former director of Office of Sustainability, Morgan Mickelson, as saying, quote, "They just keep trying to cover their own asses," end quote. Surprise, surprise. I think not to toot our own horn here, but we've been saying that since the beginning. As the city county council continues to support Hogsett and his terrible administration and misogynistic culture, they're not immune from the power of the people. And this is evident as the people's battle against Google's proposed data center continues to expand. Just to recap, I mean, the only reason that we know it's Google data center is because, it was leaked that Deep Meadow Ventures, which proposed a data center, was an entity that was secretly set up by Google, basically to hide their affiliation with it. Now, there was a vote in sort of a subcommittee on August 22nd that was like 8-1 in favor of it, but it's clear that public opinion is turning against it. I believe all the Republicans on the city county council have come out in support of their fellow Republican, Michael Paul Hart, Jesse Braun, and other Democrats have had to follow suit because of the power of the people. The outrage in Franklin Township is, not only righteous, but it's also backed by facts. Major reports and studies underscore that data centers are, far from benign additions to communities. So you can look at like water drain. There's a report from Business Insider that talks about how, data centers' power demand could soon exceed that of entire countries, with public health costs from related air pollution estimated between $5.7 billion and $9.2 billion annually. Of course, devouring water reserves, right? So a report on Great Lakes states warns that new hyperscale data centers threaten to overwhelm local aquifers because they use over like 1 million gallons of water every single day. There's, of course, noise and light pollution, overall environmental health burdens. 2024 study estimated that the public health toll of AI-driven data centers could reach $20 billion annually by 2030 if the Earth is still around, which it will be because we will fight and create a new system by then. Mm-hmm. But these are just the facts, and so they don't, tell the whole story, even though they're true, which is why we had Kristopher on the show this week. And so, I think I'll leave it there.
Okay. First off, that's a lot of information.
So.
It's a lot of information, but it's also why it is a good reminder that we are together, right? We are always organizing. But we're always organizing. Just like, when we did this letter writing campaign, there's been protest after protest because the people are not just taking this sitting down, right? And it's popping up I'm always proud when there's a protest popping up in Indiana. Even if my comrades are not the one putting it on, I'm always like, man, this is amazing that the people are united and the people are like, I'm not supposed to cuss on here, but the people.
You say that like every episode.
I know. I'm just waiting for the day that I just like drop an F-bomb and Dakota
or internalize that you can't cuss on here.
I have to. But the people are not taking this sitting down. The people are not taking this laying down. And also, as Derek and I talked about briefly, like, this is why we have the media. This is why we're here to talk about like what is happening, because sometimes it feels like it's coming from all sides, and it's nice to just have the Naptown Breakdown to kind of like just consolidate. Hey, here's what's happening right now, and here's how we can continue to unite and fight back, right? 50 guardsmen, like, that's nothing. That's nothing, you know? And as long as we're together and we're organizing, and again, it doesn't matter if you're in the PSL, it doesn't matter if you're in DSA, it doesn't matter who you're with, get with an organization and be sure to fight back.
And any single one of those organizations can pull together more than 50 people on a moment's notice. So
absolutely.
Just to put it in perspective.
Yeah. So, you got more than 50 people in your neighborhood.
True. Yeah.
So, like,
I got more than 50 people in my building.
You do have more than
Thank
50
you.
people in your
Yeah.
building. Yeah.
Thanks for
so,
that reminder.
So this is nothing. This is nothing. But lots of information to take in. But, it's not hopeless because we're together always. So that's it for the Naptown Breakdown. We will be right back with Derek and Kristopher.
What happened is that we responded. Where there is repression, there will be resistance.
And we're back on Naptown People's Radio. We are honored to be joined by Kristopher Nelson, a.k.a. an artist, FTFKD, Feed the Family, Empowering the Culture through community service, fashion, and entertainment. Welcome to the show, Kristopher.
Hey, how you doing, brother?
Hey, man. Good. How about you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for asking.
All right. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming on because, as you know, there's a controversy about a proposed and possible data center that we know is going to be that Google is behind in Indianapolis, and as of this show will air on a Wednesday, the 10th, September 10th. So there's still time, and people are organizing against it. And we wanted to have you on the show because you recently moved here, I believe, from West Memphis, Arkansas, where there is a large data center. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. I mean, we haven't really heard anything from people who have lived in cities with these data centers. So I wanted to just what is it like? I mean, maybe you support them, maybe you don't, but what is it like in West Memphis, Arkansas?
Man, so first of all, I want to say thank you again for having me on the show. But jumping right into it, these data centers, me personally, I don't support the data centers because what they're actually being put in and implemented for, there's alternatives, way more safer alternatives for people, just leaving a cleaner footprint for people and not taking away from the environment. And like an example, in Memphis, Elon Musk just came, was unregulated how he came in and just bought the land and just put the data center there. And so I encourage everyone to go look into the politics, the micro politics, and how these big data centers come in, affect the communities, especially the Black and brown people in those communities. But the biggest things is the water pollution that these data centers bring, the amount of water that these data centers are taking away from that large water table that we have that will eventually directly affect everybody in Memphis, but especially those lower income households, those middle class, working class people, and then the direct health effects on those same group of people as far as what's being put into the air, what it causes and what it takes to run these data centers. Those things are going to directly affect and has been directly affecting those local communities surrounding that data center. So we've already been seeing an increase of cancer, an increase of asthma within kids in those data centers, and we also seeing less jobs. So these data centers, they don't need a lot of people to be ran, but they are accumulating more than enough wealth for themselves and their purposes. And a lot of the times, this money is not getting put back into the community. So culturally, I don't agree with the data centers, but we can look at Memphis as like what's to come for anybody else that's in line with these type of data centers and letting this happen. And like I said, in Memphis, it was unregulated. So Elon Musk didn't have to go through politics. He didn't have to go through the process of voting and not voting. He just came in there and bought the data centers. And so now we seeing it, and especially in the Black and brown communities with crime, we seeing a boost in jail, the prison system, and we seeing just an increase in the outcry for community help, a way for our community to be stable.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously tragic to hear that. I mean, it's not surprising though, right? I mean, I'm looking at this article that was just from August of this year in Time, and it begins and it says 5 days after Elon Musk's Grok 4 became one of the most powerful large language data models in the world.
Yeah.
Alexis Humphreys had her first severe asthma attack in 15 years. She laid down in a house in Boxtown, Memphis, in the mud, humid, sticky summer, struggling to breathe, right?
Yep.
And it, they're saying basically it was no coincidence. It was 5 days after this data center was built.
Yep.
And I think that you're right. I mean, I don't know. I mean, one, it's really interesting that Elon Musk was able to do this without any oversight. And actually, the only reason that we know that it's Google behind it in Indianapolis is because like somebody let it slip.
Yeah.
Which is unbelievable if you think about it. Like
it is.
you think about how much these data centers, they're collecting data on us, right?
Yeah.
Like, so they own this data on us, but
Yeah.
they won't give us the information about what they're doing.
Facts. And so when they put these huge turbines, these turbines emit a high level of nitrogen oxide and formaldehyde. I don't know if I'm saying it right. Excuse my southern twang. But both of these are linked to smog, respiratory issues, and heart disease, and even infertility. So in Memphis, Boxtown, the nearby predominantly black neighborhood, it already suffers and is at risk for cancer. But now it has increased with this data center putting there 4 times over the national average. So, man, I just encourage people to go look and see what this entails. And actually, it's so broad. What is a data center? Ask yourself,
Right.
What data are they collecting, and what would these be used for? I mean, everybody has access to Grok and ChatGPT, AI. So I encourage people to go, what's behind these data centers, and what would they actually be doing for the community?
Right. And where are they putting them? As you said, it's
Yep.
it's right by the river, right? And here's the thing about the air and the water. It travels.
Facts.
I mean, people don't seem to realize that. Like you can't contain the air. I mean, yeah, I know like the ultra rich can have, install their water filters and whatnot, but for the 99% of the population, like we can't afford that.
We can't.
So, no matter how far I might live from it, it's still gonna affect me. In other words, what you're saying.
Most definitely. And these data centers rely heavily on water because they're using millions and millions of pounds and tons of water just to keep these things cool. It's not even to run them, but just to keep them from overheating. And
Right.
then,
Damn, I don't even know like how many fish tanks is that? Like you know what I mean? Like how can you what's that even? I know it's a big number, but it's like what does that even look like? And it's amazing.
and so you think about Indianapolis here, the first thing it does affect I'm happy that it's more regulatory things put in place for these data centers to come here, because we can see how the government can kind of help us out and be a safe stop for these things. But when you see the amount of water that it will be using in this smaller water source, this water table, because Memphis is right on the Mississippi, right? So
Right.
They got a little more leeway, playtime, and they probably got even more argument on the side of the data center. But here in Indianapolis, that water system is not as big as the Mississippi. So using that much water to control and it's going to take away from the people. And I think it's going to be a more instantaneous effect here than it is in Memphis. So luckily it is regulated, and luckily we do have a chance to step in and say something about it before it gets too far. And I think a lot of people are gonna first feel it with that. If this does pass, it's the energy bill, the energy, how much you paying for your electricity. Like you said, a lot of people don't got those funds, especially in today's economic climate, to keep up with those things. So what does that look like for the people moving down the road?
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, and I hadn't even thought about the water bills, I mean, and so basically like what's happening is like we're paying more, for water and for energy, so that these big corporations that already have masses of wealth don't have to pay for it themselves, you know? I mean, and I will say the other good thing that's, is it, and why we have this show, Naptown People's Radio, because we want the people on here, just, it's for the people, right? Not the, like we don't want the, Google CEO in here or whatever giving his line.
Yeah,
right?
because he
that's
ready for that.
That's all we hear, right?
He ready for that.
So, we want to thank you, because it hasn't happened yet.
Mm-hmm.
We've got a chance to stop it, like you said, not just regulate it, but stop it. And we've seen over the last couple of weeks, first there was like 1-2 counselors against it. And now, more are starting to come out because politicians can do it, but only if,
the people.
it's us against the money.
Yeah.
And so we got to have a lot of people out there making our voices heard.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that, you're this story, right? Like you're talking about your experience. And I'm sure that, it's not as if data centers are the only thing. Like, there's a reason why, the trash dumps, they're not in the suburbs, right? They're they're in black, brown communities,
Facts.
right? So this is just like another, like we already know what's coming. So it's just another reason to get together and to get out there, whatever it is. If it's, protesting in the streets, if it's, sharing the news with their friends, writing a letter to your counselor, making whatever means might be, of course, if you believe that they're wrong, which I guarantee you, like if we walk out in the street and take a survey, nobody's going to be like, oh yeah, we really want that here, because like you said, the other thing too, you said like, what are they for? Basically, they're for replacing jobs, like not only like jobs that exist now, but like long term.
Most definitely. And so people, what I always hear in our community is we talk about crime, we talk about the instability in the youth and the kids. And then we got the kids also complaining about nobody hearing them out or not having places to go and create. So right now, in present time, present day, we're living in a transition and where we got the ability to say, look, this is why crime exists, because there's it's an inequality, it's no stability for people to make money. So this is adding on to that. And so I think instead of pointing a finger at each other, right now is just a time to unify and say, and look at what unity and harmony does, because we can't just say it's all one group or another and we are not coming together doing something when it's time to do something. So us going out, working together as people, coming together and making our voice be heard, that's what's going to stop it. And that's what's going to keep Indianapolis, the crossroads of America, flourishing. This is a big agriculture community here. And so you just think millions and millions and millions of water being taken away, how many jobs they take away. You talk about crime now, we talking about having curfews now. Well, picture when 500, 600, 700, 800 families don't got jobs and places to go. So right now, instead of pointing the finger, I think this is right now the perfect time to show the world as a collective how we can come together and stop these big businesses from coming over and taking over these cities and these cultures that we got established already.
Honestly, I feel like you just said it right there. Thank you so much for coming on the show,
yes,
Kristopher.
Sir.
It was really good to meet you, good to build with you. I look forward to continuing to build with you.
Most definitely.
I'm sure that if you're out in the streets, if you're at the City County Council, and how can people get in touch with you? We'll put in the show notes, but in terms of as an your artistic work,
cool.
Other work.
Well, like you said, is FTFKD. FTF stands for Feed the Family, Empowering the Culture Through Community Service, Fashion, and Entertainment. It's FTFKD on all socials, every platform, FTFKD. I just dropped the tape, but that tape can wait. Right now, we got some important meetings coming up here in Indianapolis. So if you see me outside at any events, I'm going to be ringing the bell. I'm going to be the harbinger to tell people, like, hey, let's stop this data center. Let's see what it look like when we all work together and see how that has an effect on our community. So I think it's a meeting tomorrow for the 9th. What is it? What's tomorrow's date?
Well, yeah, so we're recording this on Sunday, September 7th, and there's going to be a protest tomorrow on the 8th in Franklin Township, and then I'm sure there's going to be meetings planned for that, and then the vote will be later on this month. So we have a couple of weeks to
come together.
Yeah, and as we do that, I think we can bump your tape on the way.
Hey, man. Hey, that's my tape is a rally cry. It's something to ride to in the revolution. So I definitely encourage that. FTLKD still wavy out right now, and That's what we fighting for right now. This what we being wavy for right now, to stop this data center for sure.
All right, beautiful. Well, yeah, we're gonna put that in the show notes so our listeners can listen to that, bump that on the way there. And if you come to the Liberation Center, I'm sure we'll have it on our playlist.
Most definitely.
Yeah, no, for
Appreciate
real.
that.
So yeah, no. So thank you again, Kristopher. We are gonna take a break, and we'll be right back on Naptown People's Radio.
Naptown People's Radio was recorded live at the Indianapolis Liberation Center, your liberated space in the heart of downtown Indianapolis, located at 18th and Meridian Street. The Liberation Center is rooted in a fundamental truth. Liberation is never given by the oppressor. It is won through organized, united struggle. Unity is never simple, so we actively bridge the divide imposed by the ruling class through education, culture, politics, spirituality, and more. We reject competition and embrace cooperation, bringing together community members, organizers, and future organizers to train a new generation of activists. Together, we're fighting for a world built on the interests of people and planet. By organizing across our city, we're reviving a collective spirit and renewing our belief in a better, necessary future. This work is hard, and it's not free. We depend on supporters like you to keep the center open and growing. Visit indyliberationcenter.org to become a monthly sustainer today. Your contribution ensures this liberated space thrives, opening new avenues in the struggle for liberation. Thank you for your support. Now back to Naptown People's Radio.
And we're back on Naptown People's Radio. I hope that you enjoyed the conversation that I had with Kristopher. I will just say that it was really incredible to meet him and talk to him because he contacted us like Saturday night, and the next morning we were talking on the phone, and then like literally hours later we were at the Liberation Center starting to build together and to get to know each other and strategize, and it was great to learn from him about not only that, but his many ventures. So I encourage you. We'll post everything in the show notes. But it was like that's the kind of spirit that we really need more of. Like these kind of organic leaders from neighborhoods who are just like, yeah, like let's do something. He's new to the city. It's like let's do something. And like he called us, and we're like, yeah, let's do it. And we did it. And we're gonna keep doing it. That's how we're gonna defeat our enemies. So. In terms of, people who are working to defeat our enemies, Dani, who gets this week's Circle City shout out?
All right, so this week's Circle City shout out goes to Indianapolis-based artist Edith Conchas. So Edith is also a first-generation Latina, both parents being from Mexico, and she specializes in free-handed chalk art for local businesses, including Amelia's, Bluebird, Stomping Ground, lots of others. She also does hand-painted signs. So if you've ever been to the Indy Liberation Center, if you haven't, what are you doing? But anyway, but if you've ever been to the Indy Liberation Center, as soon as you walk in, to your right is a mural painted by Edith of Shirley Graham Du Bois. If you don't know who that is, you should look her up. She's a Naptown native. She's a socialist, and she was W.B. Du Bois' wife. She revolutionized him in many, many ways. But you can check out Edith and her art on her website, goodjobsigns.webflow.io. Of course, like I said, she does chalk art and murals as mentioned, but she also does block prints for sale and display. She's done art builds in the past, so much more. Now, in addition to being an artist, because Dani, why are you talking about this? In addition to being an artist, Edith is an environmental activist and a member of Touchgrass Indy, which is a member organization of the Indy Liberation Center. This is the perfect episode to talk about Edith and Touchgrass Indy. It's almost like we planned this out. So Touchgrass Indy is founded on the understanding that the working class must come together and dismantle capitalism if we are to effectively adapt to the climate crisis. TGI's goal is to organize around a revolutionary perspective of environmental justice and to challenge the misplaced blame for environmental problems on the individual rather than corporations and the state, particularly the military. Right? So like, yeah, maybe you should turn off the water when you're brushing your teeth, but like that is not the reason why there is, an environmental crisis right now. Like it's not on you. In TGI, they believe that liberal approaches to environmental organizing have served as important entry points for many people, but they cannot achieve the fundamental changes needed to address the climate crisis. This Indianapolis group aims to grow in community with others while creating a positive impact on the social and physical environment. TGI is a space for Indianapolis inhabitants to channel fear, shock, and disgust at the cruelty of capitalism into action. Together, we can transform our communities and be transformed by them. We can avoid apathy and walk with purpose, passion, and with each other. We can touch grass together, right? As always, we here on NPR talk about, doing revolutionary work and how it can look. It can look so many different ways, right? It doesn't always look the way that Derek and I do it. It can look however you need it to look, however you feel like it should look, whatever you're interested in, right? If you're interested in the environment, which we should all be interested in the environment, then you can join Touchgrass Indy, right? All of the work that we do is invaluable. Thankfully, we have organizers and activists like those in Touchgrass Indy, like Edith. Shout out to Edith for always showing up for the people.
Thank you for that. And yes, as always, want to back that up. Shout out Edith. Keep up the amazing work. We love having you around the center. Edith also is, one of the people in TGI who, we adopted our block here at Indianapolis Liberation Center. So they do, a monthly cleanups around the block. Again, thank you. Before we end, I want to call your attention to a couple of events to put on your radar, on your calendar right now. One is between now and October 5th, you could check out On the Count by Gina Lee Robbins at the Indianapolis Arts Center. So Robbins' work is a meditation on the U.S. carceral system. The project consisted of the creation of 2,000 ceramic torso-shaped forms that were each hand-formed and individually pierced 1,000 times by the artist, representing the almost 2 million people currently incarcerated in all 50 states. There's also photo documentation of temporary installations in view of several detention sites throughout the state. This Wednesday, we will be at the City County Council. That's September 10th, to protest even more of our money going to the biggest, most well-armed, well-funded gang in the city, the IMPD. A reminder that every Saturday at the Liberation Center between 9:30 and 11 a.m., Circle City Sangha has our mindfulness meetups, and we always encourage people to check that out. And then finally, we are excited to announce that on Tuesday, September 23rd, the anniversary of George Jackson's birth, we're going to have an exclusive preview of a new Shaka Shakur documentary titled Soul in Exile. So you can go to the website, IndyLiberationCenter.org or shakashakur.org to get your tickets for that. There's going to be a discussion afterwards. The documentary is about 42 minutes, so there'll be plenty of time for discussion, and we hope to see you there. Don't miss that opportunity. That's it for this episode of Naptown People's Radio. If you found today's discussion useful, please pass it on, leave a comment, and listen for our next episode to drop. You can support us at support.pslindianapolis.org and by shopping at the Liberation Center store. Again, that's on our website. It's also here at the physical center. So as Dani said, if you haven't been here, get here, check out our merchandise. And if you have a suggestion for the show, we'd love to hear from you. You can email Dakota Fronterhouse, our producer at naptownpeoplesradio.com. The road ahead is long, but we walk it together. Study with your comrades, build with your community, and always remember, theory without action is paralysis, but action without theory is chaos. Once again, I'm your host, Derek Ford, here with my comrade and co-host,
Dani Abdullah.
Stay dangerous, stay disciplined, and stay in the struggle.
We trying to create a movement. We got a chance to do something in Indiana that brothers like myself been talking about for the last 40 years. When I first became political and we was organized behind the walls in the 80s and 90s, some of the stuff that we doing now with the different programs and the different institutions that we have and things like the Indy Center is things that we used to talk about and dream about doing. And now we doing them. See what I'm saying? We doing it. And we got to keep that momentum going. And it's also generation. So as the next generation come up, you know what I'm saying, it's on y'all to take it to the next level and take it to the next stage.